Welcome to PCMC. I'm Mike Bongiorno. I'm here with Can You Dig It? Nadia Kader.
Hey, Mike. All right, I thought you were going to say like keep on trucking or something.
Keep on trucking. That's another Crumb thing.
No one remembers. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to bug out, baby. There's a lot of bugging out talk in this film. Today, we're going to talk about the film from 1972, Fritz the Cat. Uh-oh, scandal.
Oh, did you ever want to see a cat with an erection?
Mm-hmm.
You ever want to see a cat with an erection smoke weed and have sex with a crow?
Yeah.
You got it.
It's it.
Here. Ever want to see a cat with an erection have an orgy in a bathtub in a what was it, a walk up in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Or Manhattan? Here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask you what, before seeing this film, did you know about it? Did you have any cultural consciousness of it?
Well, years ago, I watched this documentary about Crumb, so I knew he was a creep. I mean, mostly that it was more about his life and his weirdo family.
Oh, you talking about Crumb, the documentary Crumb?
Yeah,
that's an amazing documentary. Yeah.
Oh, it's good, but he's such a weirdo, and it's so amazing though, because when they had his family too, they're all weirdos. It's just Crumb found a way to be a successful weirdo,
right? And
like channel all his bizarre like creep shit into comic books, and then he just moved to France, like
right. And then he's got that one brother who like sexually assaults people and has been arrested, and like he's got crazy bad OCD. He'll swallow a ball of yarn so it goes through his whole system. Do you remember that? He's like,
I blacked that out.
He's like, I put yarn through my system once a month or something. Like it was like it's basically like the story of three brothers that are all mentally unwell, except one of them somehow turned it into art. And the other two are just completely lost. And like even one of them, I remember one of them was also an artist, but then he got to this weird point where instead of making art, he started writing like like a serial killer, like teeny tiny words. And he just have notebooks and notebooks of teeny tiny words. And Crumb was like, he basically just lost it. He fell into doing this and he stopped making art.
Oh my God. What's weird is I don't remember all that insane stuff. I just remember how like exhausted that brother looked, the artist that went crazy. Like he looked like life chewed him up and spit him out. I was so sad in a way, but so basically Crumb took all his dirty thoughts. Like he really looks like a guy that would masturbate on a public bus. And he somehow
he masturbates to his own work.
Yes, except this time I guess he waited till he got home. But he looks like I mean, judging a book by its cover, we all learned that's not a great thing, but he just looks like a creepy dude. And he took all this like and if you look at his art that's not Fritz the Cat, right? They're all very similar bodies. They're like thick women with really thick thighs and legs and kind of tall and then like huge boobs.
Yeah,
and if I'm not mistaken, that looks like his wife when she was young.
Yeah, so he likes you could tell his fetishes. He loves the idea of like there's a scene in this movie, which this movie's based on Crumb comic, but not Crumb actually doesn't even like this movie. But there is a scene in this movie where Fritz, is this tiny little cat, has sex with this big crow. and she's like huge and bigger than him, and like you could tell his fetish is like big ladies. Like, do you remember when the new Resident Evil came out and everybody on the internet was like simping over like that giant vampire woman?
Oh, Lady. Oh my God, what was that?
Yes, Lady D.
Lady, yeah.
I'm sure our Crumb played that and jerked off. That's
yeah. Oh my God. There was even a moment in that scene where the crow lady told him to take like his pants off or something, and then she laughed at his little penis, and it made me think about like, I wonder if he actually likes that kind of humiliation. I don't know. It's just like all the sex in the documentary Crumb, when you saw his old works, and then you see that even though our Crumb wasn't super involved in Fritz the Cat movie, it just really made me curious about what is real and what was kind of made up, you know?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you learned from the Crumb movie. I actually feel like in my life, I've always had a conception of this, because I remember as a little kid, I was talking about cartoons and I said something like cartoons are for kids. And my dad was like, there's a cartoon for grown-ups. And I was like, really? What's it called? And he was like, it's called Fritz the Cat. And it's a cartoon for grown-ups, and cat has sex in it and stuff. And I was like, I heard that before I ever saw the movie or saw clips of the movie. And remember, this is like, when I'm a kid, it's the 80s. And like now you could go on DeviantArt and see like Marge Simpson fucking like Mo. Like now, right? Like now the internet is full of dirty art and dirty hentai. And also in the West, we have anime that makes it over here in a way that it didn't. Like in these, this movie came out in 1972. You didn't really, other than like Kimba the White Lion, you didn't really get anime coming over to America. So not to say Kimba's dirty, it's not, but it's like anime was always something that was for adults and children. But because of Disney's sort of reign over animation was always thought of as for children. So when Fritz the Cat came out, it was rated X, which is before NC-17, they used to call it X. And then what happened was the porno industry liked the X and started using it as an advertising tool, like X, we're rated X. And eventually they were like, okay, NC-17. So, but even if you look at the poster for Fritz the Cat, it like the tagline says, we're not rated X for nothing, baby. So they really threw it. But the truth is, this isn't a porno. This isn't hentai. There's like, even the sex in this is played for jokes. Like,
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like furry porn or something. It's really it's like just to laugh at.
Yeah.
Yeah. There really wasn't. The poster for Fritz the Cat, there's that tagline, but if you look at the art, it's Fritz with his arm around a lady cat.
Yeah.
Who's wearing like a shirt or a short dress, and he has his leg over hers, like between her crotch. Yeah. And he has his paws as hands, right? The top half in her shirt. And you can also see what looks like a bunch of matches on the couch under them. It's like they're trying real hard to be like, we ain't for kids. Right.
Yeah, it really tried to sell itself on like we're a dirty cartoon, which really I think it's not really what it is. Like when I only first saw this, like really saw it recently, because you had seen it, right? You saw it on a screen somewhere. And then you told me to watch it, and I watched it, and I was like, wow, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. This like weird kind of political, kind of satirical, like 60s kind of commentary with a capital C.
Isn't that weird? Like you never think that's what it's about.
Right. No.
It really played up the sex and the drugs and stuff. So I thought it would be some like exploitative stuff. And I even went to the theater. So recently it was Fritz the Cat's, I think, 50th anniversary. So this indie theater in Albuquerque, where I live, they were just showing it. There wasn't any new release or anything. They were like, yeah, we got it because it's the new release. I mean, sorry, it's the 50th anniversary. We'll see who comes. And they kind of do it like that. I was talking to the owner. It's kind of weird laid back here. They're like,
well, how was the screening? Were there a lot of people? Were they enjoying it?
So it was actually a double feature, $5. So it was Hey Good Lookin', which is the 40th something anniversary, I think. And then it was Fritz the Cat. So it was a double feature.
Is Hey Good Lookin' also a film by Ralph Bakshi?
Yeah. So they're both Ralph Bakshi movies. Hey Good Lookin' is actually more like a 50s nostalgia film.
Oh, okay.
Except it's like really kind of darker. It's about gangs, like they're kind of teenagers or early 20s. So it was very different. The first film, there was 3 people, and 2 of them were me and my girlfriend. Then they had like a half-hour break, and I was just talking to like the concession girl, and she was just telling me like, yeah, it's the anniversary and the owner's probably going to come in later to see people. And it wasn't, the first screening wasn't too much people coming in. They played it for like 3 days, the same 2 movies. And no one was really showing up for Hey Good Lookin', but Fritz the Cat was getting more traction. And by the time Fritz the Cat played, there was like 20 something people. And I think me and Danielle were like the youngest people there. They were definitely like older. And I feel like I'm assuming, but they seem like former counterculture people.
Sure.
Which makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of people that get a kick out of this movie.
Yeah.
I think because now it's been so long. Because we got to look at, so Fritz the Cat is a cynical satirical movie. It actually, I think it has a very negative take on the counterculture movement and how half-assed it was. And I think that's part of why our Crumb was like, he hated this movie so much. I actually looked this up. He killed Fritz the Cat off in a comic after this movie came out. Didn't write another Fritz the Cat comic.
But did you hear this? He never allowed his characters to be used in another animated film until just this year. Do you know what the film is this year that he allowed one of his characters to be in?
No.
He allowed his character, Mr. Natural, to appear in the Rescue Rangers movie that's on Disney Plus now.
Wow, this guy has a funny sense of humor.
Yeah, which I didn't like that movie, but it's full of cartoon characters from all over.
Okay, so
Skeletor in it.
You did see that movie. I've been like saving it. It's not. You wouldn't recommend it? I
didn't find it funny. I wanted to love it so much, and it wasn't hitting me. I didn't find it well written, but I love seeing all that shit.
All the comic characters.
Yeah.
Was Mr. Natural in his like yellow kind of dress thing, or was he naked?
He was not naked. He was wearing like hippie clothes.
Oh, he's wearing hippie clothes. Mr. Natural's wearing.
He was doing
clothes.
that walk, that R. Crumb walk where like the feet are out really. Like you're kind of, yeah. All right, so let's talk about Ralph Bakshi for a second. Ralph Bakshi, he started working on like cartoons for kids. The Spider-Man from the 60s that all the memes come from? He directed a lot of that.
That's great.
His first feature that was like his own was this film, Fritz the Cat from 1972. But then he did Heavy Traffic the next year. Then Coonskin in 1974. Then he got into he kind of moved away from comedy and got more into like fantasy. He did Wizards, and then in 1978 he did the original Lord of the Rings animated film, which that I had seen. That's probably the other movie of his that I'd probably seen more than once. I definitely saw that like way back when I was a kid. And that movie uses a lot of rotoscoping, like live action footage that he paints over. And the last like big thing he did that was like all his vision was he did a movie, which I actually convinced my mom to take me to in 1992. I was 11. No, wait, 92. No, I was 9.
Tell me it was Cool World.
It was Cool World.
What?
Because by the way, I didn't like it. I didn't know. It's not like I knew it was cool and I convinced my mom. I convinced my mom and she didn't know what it is. And I didn't know what it was either because the trailers didn't paint to what it really was. It just looked like a cool Roger Rabbit kind of movie. Yeah, it's a weird movie where like there's a cartoon world and you could go into the cartoon world and there's like a sexy cartoon that wants to like fuck people and Brad Pitt's in it. It's wild. I was a baby when I saw it, and I saw it in the theater. Of course, I think nobody else was in there. My younger brother might have been in there too. He would have been like 6 or something.
Oh my! And did you guys watch the whole movie?
Yeah.
Isn't there like a lot of sex in it and stuff?
My mother probably fell asleep. It was the 80s. No, sorry, it was the 90s.
That's wild. I gotta correct you only slightly. He did come out with a movie in 2015. It's called The Last Days of Coney Island. Because I remember when
it's a short.
It's like a short. Okay, so it's not a feature. Yeah, he actually I mean, it's weird because it's about Coney Island like 50 years ago, but he made it with the help of the studio in New Mexico. Because here's a shocker. Ralph Bakshi is not only still alive as of this recording, he lives in New Mexico. He's like in his 90s.
Was he at the screening you went to?
No, but when I left the Fritz the Cat screening, the owner was talking to me because it's New Mexico. So like you can just know random people. And he was telling me about, he's like, Ralph Bakshi liked our Facebook post or Instagram post or something that we were screening this. And I'm going to try to get heavy traffic next year and see if we can get him to come down from Silver City. I was like, what? If he's still alive. Yeah, because I guess Ralph Bakshi knows how to use Facebook. So that's
there you go. Yeah, he must. Yeah, I don't know how old he is, but he must be getting up there. If he's been working professionally since the freaking 60s and earlier.
He's 83. Oh, I thought he was older. He's only 80. Well, that's still kind of old. Yeah. But yeah, he's old enough to predate Israel because he was born in the Mandate of Palestine, and then later, now it's Haifa, Israel. But so Ralph Bakshi's older than Israel, but still not too old for Facebook. So we're kind of
because one of the things that this movie makes fun of is Jewish people. There's a lot of jokes about Jewish people, and also there's a lot of jokes. I mean, there's a lot of offensive shit in this, probably offensive on purpose, but a lot of it is like all the African-American all the characters are anthropomorphized animals, but all the African-American characters are crows.
Yeah, that was not great.
and I think that calls back to Dumbo, where there were the crows in Dumbo that were sort of coded as black. Yeah, there's stuff in this that's definitely like, wow, okay, yikes. Yeah, like that scene you were talking about when Fritz has the little penis, he's going to have sex with a crow, and the big crow woman's like looks at his dick and laughs and says, "You're not black enough." It's
oh my god,
wild stuff.
I'm laughing because it's just so. I think a lot of that movie was so shocking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That it's funny for that shock value.
Yeah.
What's weird though is it's like okay, so the crows are black people. That's not great. The rabbis, like there's a scene where Fritz the Cat is running from 2 police officers and he hides in a synagogue, and there's just all these rabbis and they're all lions.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I laughed so hard. It was just
right.
I don't think that was necessarily offensive. I think that was Ralph Bakshi remembering like childhood stuff because it just felt.
Yeah, there's a joke in that scene where you hear a radio, and I actually wrote it down on the radio. You hear this. Okay, we interrupt the Israeli-Arab war for this special announcement. The president, after conferring with the Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir, has agreed to send more arms and equipment to Israel based on the return of New York City and Los Angeles to the United States. The joke being that Israel owns or has occupied New York City and Los Angeles, I guess because of the large population of Jewish people in it.
Oh my god! And then all the lions start cheering and doing a hora. Yes, I was like, "Oh my god!" My girlfriend was dying. Like, she's Jewish. She was like, "Oh my god, Nadia, this is like giving me flashbacks." I'm like, "Really?" Like, wow. Yes. This is,
there's also a Jewish character named Winston Schwartz, who's like the main girlfriend kind of Fritz. and
Oh man.
she's very like, I don't know how she's depicted in a weird way. I don't know. It's all satirical. I guess we could. There's a lot to get into in terms of what it's saying.
Well, I mean, yeah, she was kind of like a nag. But then at the beginning, Fritz was talking to these college students, and one of them was like hitting up his friend who was a crow. And she was like, I had a best friend who was a crow, and she told me that the Jewish people are the closest to Black people. So, like, I feel like I'm close to you. And I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like I could hear people saying that. Like, it's so embarrassing white people stuff like that.
Yeah.
And one of the two cops are pigs, and they look almost interchangeable, but one is Jewish and one's not. So one is just confused by everything in the synagogue, and the other pig is like, "These are my people. Stop interrupting them. We have to they're looking for this stupid cat." So there's like different facets of Jewish people in this movie. Yeah. But there's not enough time to really dig into anything, because we also have to think of the amount of time it takes for a 1970s animated movie, right? There's just so little, there's so much money poured into it. There's so little that they could do at the time.
Yeah, it's very limited.
But I feel what he could do was pretty good. I mean,
it's a good looking movie.
Yeah, the animation was pretty good. Except there's like a few moments where you could see kind of like mistakes.
Well, he didn't do pencil tests. I mean, most animation will do pencil tests, but he was like, fuck it, that takes too much time. I don't have and money. I don't have the time for it. So it really has this sort of like independent grit to it. Sometimes the background is just this sort of, the background is usually like watercolors, and a lot of times it's not. Sometimes it's distinct, but sometimes it's not. It's just sort of this like very colorful, iridescent, like it looks like tie-dye kind of thing. That's just, he's got figures in front of it doing things. And it's like, it doesn't matter what the background is. Sometimes the background's black and white. Sometimes it's not. As much as he can, he'll make things still to save animation, the effort of animation. But it does have a great feel to it and look to it. By the way, going back that scene that you were just talking about, yeah, I do think one of the things that's being made fun of here are quote unquote good liberals.
Oh, definitely.
And privilege. Like Fritz is a young, privileged NYU student who goes on this odyssey and gets other people in trouble and gets some of his friends killed because he starts a riot in Harlem, and he gets off completely scot-free because of his privilege. But in the beginning, there's a really funny scene where there's this crow in the park and all these white girls are around him, like trying to impress him. And they are saying things like, "Oh, I love to read James Baldwin. I volunteered for Head Start last summer. Why does a great actor like James Earl Jones always have to play black men?" Like stupid shit like that.
That was so like cringy. And I feel like we kind of really just starting to really analyze those kind of thoughts and behaviors in the last 10 years. So the fact that he was talking about that he had to be animating this or writing this in like the late 60s for Fritz the Cat come out in 1972. It almost made me feel like we didn't really get that far. Yeah. Or like it's funny how some things are cyclical in that way.
Right. But like you said, I do think R. Crumb didn't like that it made fun of liberalism. But I've never read the comics, so I'm not aware as to, this is written by Ralph Bakshi, but I'm not aware as to how much of the content in the film is adapted from the comics. Obviously the character is. But it doesn't, R. Crumb has a very specific style. It's a sort of obsessive, meticulous style with these lots of lines and minute details. And Fritz kind of looks like that just because that was the character design, but a lot of the world around it doesn't really look like R. Crumb. It looks more like that, what I would call like Ralph Bakshi style.
Exactly. It's Ralph Bakshi took someone else's characters and made his own movie with it. Like, I feel like he had a very clear vision of what he wanted, and he didn't want R. Crumb's vision. Right. Which, people still have debates about that, about if something needs to be like, super exactly the same, or, or have the same spirit. But which is, sometimes there's a point to that, and that sometimes it's just a different medium. It's just a totally different medium. It's a totally different story, different time period. So I don't, sometimes I'm kind of hardcore. No, this is not away from the artist's vision. And then sometimes I'm feeling like, well, who cares?
Yeah, I agree.
Who cares about what if our Crumb likes this movie or not?
Right.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's like Fritz the Cat looks the closest to our Crumb design, but even then it's still very simplified. Like if you pull up a still from any Fritz the Cat comic, it's so detailed.
Yeah.
And so much shading. And I remember R. Crumb saying that what Fritz the Cat was saying in this movie was not something that he ever wrote. So that was his stance on why he was upset about it.
Right.
But I do agree with you. I think it's because of Bakshi's take on the counterculture movement and like the fallacies of liberalism
and also like this movie's an odyssey, really. It is a story that's almost continuous, where it takes place over like 3 or 4 days, and Fritz the Cat meets these girls in a park. It's basically he meets these girls in a park. He goes somewhere with them, gets into a scuffle with the cops. The cops follow him. He goes to Harlem to hide. He meets Duke, this crow. He goes with Duke, gets high with him. Starts a riot because of his own bullshit. He starts a riot in Harlem, gets his friend Duke killed, creates all this violence. He leaves scot-free, and then he goes. He drives to the West Coast with his girlfriend.
It's her car.
Yes,
and that's another thing that, like, when I was watching this movie, I was like, "Are you serious?" Because like Fritz doesn't have a job or anything, and
no.
You can't quite tell from the movie. You could just assume like it was just one night, right? But while he's in the car with his girlfriend and she's driving, and they're driving to the desert, it looks like Arizona or something at some point, but I don't know where it is. And the whole time she's talking to him about stuff or like making plans for their future, she's already accommodating that he's just going to like write his master book or something. And she's going to be the one supporting the family. So he's already like, so, and she found him when he was hiding in a garbage can after starting the riot. So no one was looking for him. He thought someone was, but no one found him. So that's like Fritz's privilege is like compounded so much.
Yeah. And it's funny, of all the weird things that he goes through on his Odyssey, all of the stuff with Winston, who's the woman who wants to like start a life with him, they make it like, I guess the target in that moment of the Odyssey is domesticity and middle class bourgeois life. But at the same time, it feels like, given all the other targets, it stands out as kind of odd, because then he leaves her and hooks up with these strung out heroin addict terrorists.
Right. Like, Nazi level terrorists that all he hears is their kind of strung out comments about like
revolution.
Taking a revolution, and he's on board. Doesn't notice that this fucking strung out bunny, who is a domestic abuser, like abusing his horse girlfriend, has Nazi insignia all over him.
Yeah.
So it's either that Fritz is so far up his own ass that he doesn't see the Nazi stuff, or he doesn't even recognize it, and that's his ignorance, right? It's like, we don't know how to read that. But
I think it's the first one. I think Fritz is like a bullshit character. I think he's full of shit, because there's this one line of dialogue that he says at the beginning and the end. And in the beginning, when he sees the 3 girls that are hanging around the crow, he decides like, since they're paying so much attention to the crow, they must be like these liberal girls. So I'll convince them to come back with me and fuck me and hang out with me by giving them this whole bullshit about looking for truth and nonsense. And then at the very end, the terrorists have him blow up a power plant, and he blows up with it. And he's in a hospital bed. And then the girls come in and they're crying over him. And then he says the same line again. And the line is, "I've been up and down the 4 corners of this big old world. I've seen it all, and I've done it all. I've fought many a good man, and I've laid many a good woman. And if there's one thing I've learned, and then he goes on. He says it in the beginning, and it's pure bullshit to try to get them to come with him. But in the end, it's also still bullshit, but at least it's truthful in that he has seen shit now. But also he's above it with his privilege. I mean, probably the most, I think, for me, the most shocking moment in the movie is during the riot in Harlem. One of these characters that he meets along the way, this crow named Duke, gets shot through the chest and dies and is bleeding, and it looks painful. And they do this cool thing where it's juxtaposing images of Duke dying with like billiard balls going into the pockets of the pool table, because when we first see Duke, he's playing pool. So it's sort of like as the balls go into the hole, like he is dying. And so he gets Duke killed. He gets a lot of people killed in that riot. You know, all of Harlem gets burned down.
Oh my, yeah.
He ends up blowing up the power plant at the end. You know, but then the girls come in and fuck him in the end. He kind of like gets away with everything.
He does. He also ends up in LA, like somehow. Yeah. So, and in a hospital, and like, I think he was going there. I can't remember why, but he had some grand, stupid idea.
Oh, right. Well, him and Winston were going to start a new life there. She was going to become a secretary, and he was going to write his poem. He calls himself a poet, but you never see him writing or doing anything like that.
No, actually, the closest you come to that is when he's like evaluating his life and his thoughts while he's blowing up this building and doesn't think enough that this is going to explode while he's sitting on it.
Right.
Like it's madness. It's utter madness. Like how little Ralph Bakshi thought this character's intelligence, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, and he's in a body cast, but he still has like a foursome with like the women that are left. Winston, he left in the middle of the desert because she won't stop nagging him, which to me is disturbing because she sends him off to go get gas for the car and he just leaves her. Like, how long did she wait there?
Right.
And the horse girl, actually, Harriet, I actually wanted to talk to you about that because that was dark. So
yes,
we meet Harriet while she's traveling with this Nazi bunny, right? And he's he can't stop getting high. It's just, and he's this bunny with these wide eyes, like
super strung out,
and just really kind of ignoring her while she's trying to talk to him about stuff and oh, baby this, baby that. And he's just completely ignoring her. And then when he takes her and Fritz, which he doesn't even care about Fritz, to this meeting in a cemetery with the rest of the right-wing terrorists. Yeah. I don't even know. It was right-wing even the term back then?
I don't well, it's interesting right there. Nazi, you see swastikas, but at the same time, you see crucifixes everywhere and they're wearing crucifixes. So they're just, all I could call them is extremists or terrorists. Like it's not, and obviously they're violent. So I guess fascist is a good word, but it's not. Okay. It's not totally clear like what their quote unquote ideology is. Fritz even says at one moment, you're full of shit. You don't care about a revolution. You just care about having an excuse to hurt people and blow shit up.
Wait, when you're saying crucifix, was it the Iron Cross? Like, black. I'm trying to remember what this looked like.
The bunny had a cross around his neck on a chain, but then because when they're in the mausoleum, you see crosses all over.
Right, but so there's actually a difference. Like the Iron Cross, that's kind of like how do I describe this? Kind of like it kind of goes in and out a little bit, like out at the tops and the sides of the cross, like almost like squeezed a little bit. That's actually an Iron Cross, and that's like it's basically like right wing, like not right wing, sorry, it's like racist biker stuff. They're like a gang of white supremacists.
Okay.
So if it looks like the biker, if you just Google biker cross or iron cross, you'll see what I'm talking about. If it looks like that, because I'm sorry, I can't remember what it looks like in the movie, but if it looks like that iron cross, then it's very clear that they're white supremacists. If it just looks like a simple sort of longer top bottom and shorter sides, then that's like the traditional Christian.
I think you see both. I think you see both because you see on gravestones the more traditional one, but then there's the one he's wearing, which sounds more like the one you're talking about.
Right, but if it's in the cemetery, it's not like they chose that, right? They're just like meeting there. But if they're wearing it, then that's like a choice.
It's weird. I don't know.
But yeah, so anyway, we know just from, their talk and the Nazi insignia, that's when you know what they're about. Fritz hasn't figured it out yet. But so Harriet goes with them, and she's apparently like getting frustrated at one point and upset that her bite, which I don't even think we know his name, the bunny. I don't think we ever find out. Oh, okay. All right. So she's getting upset, losing, not paying attention to her, and she's kind of nagging him and egging him on, like, I want to leave. I don't want to be here. It's not cool. Can we go out? Can we do this?
Yeah.
And then it takes a dark turn.
Yeah.
And it actually, they imply that they sexually assault Harriet in the graveyard with a candle. They don't show you anything, but they kind of tie her up, and then one of them, who is a female, like, white supremacist or whatever,
he looks like a lizard kind of thing, like a weird monster.
Yeah, and then she's like holding this thing, and she says something along the lines of "teach you a lesson" or something. And then afterwards,
they chain her up.
Oh my god, it's dark. I did not expect to see that in this kind of, like, this movie. You would think is a lot funnier just from like when we were talking earlier about the posters and stuff. Yeah. Like that went in a really dark direction, and you could see that Harriet and Fritz are super subdued afterwards.
Yeah, he's like comforting her.
Sort of, but he really half-asses that too.
Yeah, he sort of sticks up for her when Blue starts beating her and hitting her with a chain. He starts like sticking up for her, but he doesn't seem to really do anything to help her. Yeah,
it's like he makes a little effort, and that little effort is more than enough for Fritz. Like, he can't do anymore.
Well, do you think that Fritz joined in assaulting her sexually off screen?
I don't think so. Just the way he approached her, I think he just saw it happen and probably turned around and waited for it to be over.
Okay.
Just from his behavior.
Yeah.
Because he's a coward. He's such a coward. It's actually a really scathing critique of this character and hippies, which is so interesting.
Yeah, that was a very disturbing, kind of scary scene. And weirdly, she, with the three girls from the beginning, she also comes back at the end to his bedside and like sneaks into the hospital because there's a cop guarding his hospital room. And she, I guess, joins in the five-way. Right, because but
so
all of a sudden she likes Fritz. I don't know why.
Actually, I'm gonna take a darker critique. Is that battered and abused women will look for anyone that shows them any kind of comfort. So what little Fritz did was enough for her. That was better than what she was getting.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sorry for being a downer. It's just that's what it seems like.
It's funny, like this movie was famous for its sexuality, and really you see a few flaccid penises, you see a lot of boobies, but you never see penetration. Most of the time sex is depicted as just like humping, and it's more to be funny. But the stuff that's actually, I think, disturbing is no one talks about that much, which is this ending. I mean, it does get crazy dark at the end there. And like I said, one of them's a lizard woman person, but then one of them's also like, it looks like Shadow Weaver from She-Ra. It's just like a robe and then like a black, or kind of like Orko from He-Man. It's just you see eyes and then like blackness, like you can't see what's under the robe.
Yeah, that was kind of like the leader.
Yeah, and it's like, so what are you? Is this like a cult? It's super weird.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that was definitely Bakshi. That wasn't Crumb, because I feel like Bakshi had similar kind of designs throughout. the few movies I've watched of his, he kind of hits sort of similar stuff over and over again. Very kind of limited, but yeah, it was just like some mysterious thing in a robe, some kind of creature. It actually, I pulled up a still on Google just to take a look, and it almost looks like the thing has a tail, so it could be another reptilian under a hood.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, very, very weird.
Yeah. So other than Harriet, are there any other characters that he meets along the way that you want to talk about that are interesting? You know, Big Bertha, the crow that he has sex with. Do you know who voices her?
No.
That character this is going to blow your mind. That character, Big Bertha, the one who makes fun of his little dick, she is voiced by Rosetta Leonora, who was the grandma from Family Matters. The little old grandma from Family Matters.
Oh my God.
Saying some dirty shit.
That's crazy. Oh man.
I think my favorite of the people he meets is Duke.
Yeah, because Duke actually does a lot for Fritz in the limited screen time that he has, because when Fritz is in the club, it's clearly an African-American club. And Fritz is this like idiot just trying to like be cool and stuff. And people are like not feeling it.
And he calls the bartender boy.
Oh, that was embarrassing. Oh, so much embarrassing like white people behavior in this movie. He calls him boy, and then he almost like it starts getting threatened, and then Duke comes in and
Duke kind of saves him.
Yeah, saves him.
Yeah, he shouldn't, because eventually Duke saves him twice. He saves him then, and then when they're driving like crazy, again, privilege, right? They're driving like crazy, and Duke's terrified, and Fritz is like, I got it. When they crash, Duke saves him again, and then eventually Fritz gets Duke killed. Not
to mention, he gets Fritz some free weed at his penthouse and sex with his girlfriend, which I don't know if Duke knew that happened, but that happened. Yeah. And then after he's killed.
It's wild.
So Fritz basically ruins this guy's life before he gets him killed.
Yeah, and he doesn't ever mention him again. It's like there's no remorse. You know, the next time you see him, he's in that garbage can, and Winston finds him, and he's like, hey, am I on the news? Are they talking about me?
This is a dark movie.
It's funny, the more I think about it, the more I feel like Fritz the Cat is a piece of shit.
He is. He's just such a garbage humanoid.
There's a sequel to this film that is not well regarded, and it was not made by Ralph Bakshi. Ralph Bakshi did not want to do it. And it's R-rated, and apparently it's more of a studio film. It was more like a studio trying to cash in on it. It's called 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat. It looks similar in its artistic style, but maybe I would look at it if I came across it. But it doesn't seem like an important movie in any kind of way.
No. And if you look at the IMDb description, it's like Fritz the Cat may have lost one of his lives in the comics, but in his new movie, he has 8 more lives left to go. So like, it's already, yes, exactly it. It's like, F you, our Crumb, and we're going to try this one more time. Which, I feel like I had a lot of misinformation about Fritz the Cat. Because first of all, I thought it was like, I don't know if I read something wrong, or I thought its reputation was just like a dirty, stupid cartoon.
Yeah.
I thought it was like super sexist. I thought it was just like nonsense. And really, I just dragged my girlfriend to go see this movie because like, when's the next time we're going to see this movie in a theater? Let's just go check it out because it's so old, right? But then, it was not anything that I expected. And I've never seen a movie like this.
Yeah.
I like an animated movie. And I think that's what I appreciate. I appreciate the conversation that we're having about it. And I appreciate just that it exists because it's such a wild thing.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at, and it's on Amazon Prime.
It's on Amazon Prime, and there's also a really, really shitty transfer on the archive.org if you can find it, which is the Internet Archive. So that means no one cares about this movie, so that's why they put it up, because it's not.
Yeah,
it has to be still copyrighted somewhere, but if it's online for free, Again, it's not a great transfer, but if it $3.99 is too much for you, there's a worse version, but that no one cares.
Well, the one on Amazon Prime is free.
Oh, it's free on Amazon.
Wait, isn't it?
No, I think you have to rent it.
I thought it was one of the free ones. Amazon's weird like that.
Yeah, you might have like you might have a service that is giving you like
possibly. Yeah.
The last time I checked it was like $3.99.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, there are 3 interesting scenes that do this very interesting thing where, well, the legend is that Ralph Bakshi just went out with a microphone and recorded real people talking. I don't think that's necessarily true, but there are these conversations in the film. The first one in the very beginning with these guys in like a work site, construction site, and then the people in the synagogue, and then the crows in the bar. What I do think he did was had some people come in to record and just let them talk, let them improvise. So you've got like this very realistic sounding conversation with these people just bullshitting about politics and life and whatever. And then he just animates he animates them having the conversation. And it's different. It's different from the rest of what's going on in the movie, but it creates this very interesting like feeling, almost like it's almost like it feels like a documentary in a cartoon. It's very weird and very effective. So in this movie, I remember very clearly the beginning. So the beginning of the movie is a bunch of construction animals like sitting on like the ironworks, having lunch. And this pig is just talking about how he's paying his daughter to go to college and she's living with some guy and how wild that is. And he can't believe not only is she living with this guy, but that's what she tells him. It's like, what am I paying for? Are you going to college? Right.
and it's just going back and forth for a little bit. And these guys are just like having this random conversation that never is brought up again. And then one of them pisses off the scaffolding and it comes down, and then that's when you're introduced to like other people.
It's Fritz the Cat. This title comes up next to the P.
Yeah, oh my god, that was fun. He did that also in Hey Good Lookin', the other movie I saw, which I don't think is as effective or interesting as Fritz the Cat, but there are a lot of parts where the sound is different. So it kind of sounds like he had the microphone a bit too far away from people talking in a room versus the voice actors. Yeah, because I can't imagine him just going to some random parts and then recording people. Like, I feel like it would sound way worse than that.
Yeah. It sounds like they are performing, but it doesn't sound written at all.
No, it sounds like riffed. Like,
it's
so
really interesting. It's really very interesting.
It's fun. I don't know if he's done that more because I haven't seen a ton of his stuff. But I know you were really young, but do you remember if he did that in Cool World at all?
I have no idea.
Would you be interested in looking at Cool World again now as an adult?
Sure, absolutely. I might like it now. Who knows?
I like Dirty Roger Rabbit. I listened to a podcast where people were just talking about the whole movie, and I feel like I got the whole gist of how weird Cool World is. And like, maybe I'll check it out. It sounds very, very bizarre. Yeah. But like, to talk about Ralph Bakshi as a filmmaker, I've never seen stuff like what he's doing. I mean, I think I mentioned this earlier, like we see like the kind of dirty jokes in cartoons like Family Guy or American Dad, but it's not really they don't really, or even South Park to an extent, that their political stuff is kind of there, but it doesn't really push the envelope that I think Fritz the Cat does in a way. Because think about when Fritz the Cat came out. So it came out in 1972. So it was commenting on a counterculture movement from not like 10 years ago, not even. That's so recent. That's that would be like a show making a 9/11 joke a couple of years after 9/11, right? Like, it's raw. And I think that was kind of part of the negative kind of outtakes or remembrance of Fritz the Cat, is just so it was too recent to be talking about it.
So do you think he has an influence on animation?
I think so.
Stylistically, I think so. I think you can look at things like Tuca and Birdie and see a little bit of him.
Especially all the city stuff.
Yeah, you could see a little bit of him even in like regular show, I think. There's some like Adult Swim stuff and now Netflix stuff that I feel like it's not like the narrative of Fritz the Cat, but has a little bit of that
style, almost like kind of like edgy colors. I think of the colors a lot.
Yeah.
And man, I think so.
I feel like New York look gross. I mean, he really.
But that's what's funny about it is like he makes New York look disgusting, but he still returns to that multiple times in his movies.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's something loving about it, and it's gross, but it's also loving. And Hey Good Looking really, I think, dives into that too. I mean, it's more about the 50s, so like probably he's growing up, than Fritz the Cat, which is 20 years later, a little longer than that.
Yeah.
But I think there is also a kind of a love there, a gross love, but you know, as I moved away from New York, I'm kind of like really analyzing differences between peoples. And what I've noticed in New Mexico is that people who live here like New Mexico. Like some people definitely hate it, but generally people like it and like being from New Mexico. And they just generally, there's nothing to it. There's no sarcasm. There's no, or like, it sucks, but where else am I going to go? And I feel like New York is very much like that attitude. It's like New York sucks. It's disgusting. Everything's expensive, but everywhere else is also, where am I going to live? There's nowhere else for me to go. I feel like I've encountered this attitude from New Yorkers so much. And it's just, I had to step out of it to see that. And I feel like Ralph Bakshi kind of does that in a way too. It's like his characters kind of exist in these gross cities, but they don't know where else to, they wouldn't know where else to go. And even Harlem, when Fritz the Cat goes to Harlem, there's literally piles of garbage. Like Duke lives in like a penthouse overlooking a giant mound of trash, which almost looks like Central Park.
Well, it's a birdhouse because they're crows.
Right.
So yeah.
Yes, the birdhouse, not a penthouse.
Yeah.
But they're still over trash. And I think at one point Fritz actually, like, I don't know if he has sex with Bertha or whatever her name is, the crow lady.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's with her in garbage.
Yeah, and they go into like an old broken down Volkswagen bus. Yeah, the way they depict Harlem is very surreal. Because even like their like birdhouse is like up high, but like they're missing walls, so you could like see outside a lot of the time. It's very interesting. Let me ask you, did you notice that there's a lot of funny things with signs? Like in the beginning, you see like these signs. It almost reminded me of the John Carpenter movie They Live. You see these signs and it'll say like the Bible or like sex, like as if the subtext is being presented as the text. And then there's one part where they're in Harlem, and I didn't notice it the first time I saw it, but they're in Harlem and they're walking by a storefront and there's a sign that says cheap abortions.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh my god.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's just so weird and so funny. I was actually wondering if when they were in Harlem, that was supposed to be Central Park, because I don't know if you know, but Central Park used to be basically a ghetto where poor people lived. And
they're in Central Park in the beginning, right? Doesn't he meet the three girls in Central Park?
No, that's Washington Square Park. So that's right by NYU. Right. Yeah. But yeah, Central Park used to be what they call a ghetto. So a lot of like poor African Americans lived there, and I think poor Irish people, and they were pushed out of there to make a park. It was really not, I don't think it was immediately like super clean and where the zoo was or anything until after the 70s. So that might have been like what Central Park looked like, pushing those people out, but still maybe an exaggerated amount of trash. But yeah.
This movie is trying to depict the 60s. In the very beginning, before anything else you see on the screen, it says the 60s. And you hear like a narrator say like, hey, the 1960s, happy times, heavy times. And like it's really supposed to be a portrait of American culture in the 60s. And it's made not that far. It's only made in 1972, but it does have a looking back to it. For sure, it has a looking back to it.
Which is weird, right? Because it's like I said, it was just so recent. It's so recent to be looking back at a time like that. Like almost like it's totally different, you know? Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up is, and I didn't notice this my first time. I guess I must have been looking somewhere else or something. Did you notice Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck in this?
Yes, that was fucking wild. I was like, how did they get away with that?
To me, that it is wild. Whenever people do that, and you see that a lot in like, you know, anime and stuff, it's always a fuck you to the establishment, right? Mickey Mouse will always represent the establishment. So the scene is Fritz has started this horrible riot in Harlem. And now, like, it's not just, you know, people on the street, like the Air Force is sending in jets. And you see three characters. It's Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Daisy Duck. And they're in silhouette, so you can only see their outlines and their eyes. But it's very, very clearly Mickey, Donald, and Daisy. And they're holding an American flag, like cheering on the jet. And it's clearly such a fuck you to the animation world, right? Because even now, if you listen to Bakshi, he's like, fuck Disney, you know, it's really cool. It's really interesting.
Oh yeah, that was great. I still can't believe you got it. I know it's still in shadow, but it's so obvious.
Yeah, it's very, very obvious.
That blew me away. I was like, whoa. And cheering on like basically the National Guard or whatever coming in and just taking people out is insane.
I've been thinking about, I kind of started writing it, but then didn't like, I'm still technically writing it, but I've been thinking about like writing a piece about like all the various different Mickeys, like the Mickey from South Park and the Mickey from the Air Pirates Mickey, which was like an underground comic where he like sells drugs and stuff, like all the satirical versions of Mickey, because I think they're all interesting. And I love Mickey, by the way. I love Disney's Mickey and I love Ralph Bakshi's Mickey. I don't choose. As a critic, I'm a very greedy person. I love everything and I want to consume everything. You know what I mean? Tomorrow I'm going to see the new Buzz Lightyear movie and I'm going to fucking love it, I'm sure, unless it sucks. So it's like, that's just my personal, but I love whenever Mickey shows up in something. Cause I mean, Mickey's like Jesus. He's like McDonald's. He's like the American flag, right? He is the perfect representation of, you know, power, patriarchal, a consolidation of fucking economic
nationalism.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I love it whenever he shows up. So how would you rate this movie on a scale from 1 to 5 erect cat penises?
My God. I give it 3 erect barbed cat penises out of 5, simply for just the conversations that come out of it. I think this is one of those like media consumption things where it's way more enjoyable to really think about it and digest it with someone else than to just watch it on your own.
It is a little slow. And it's a short movie too. It's only like 70 something minutes, but that 70 minutes sometimes drags. So I do have to admit that its pacing feels a little bit tedious at times, but I agree with you. I think it's worth seeing. I think I would probably also give it 3 erect cat penises or 4 flaccid cat penises.
Okay.
All right. One last story before we go. So Ralph Bakshi is a gross guy. There's this Hollywood story that he was having a meeting and he's like, it's in his office. And in the middle of the meeting, he just like takes a tissue off the desk and like wipes his ass with it and then throws it in the garbage. Like he just had a dirty ass and just in the middle of a meeting, just wipes his ass.
What?
This has been PCMC. I'm Mike Bongiorno. I was joined today by Nadia Kader. Nadia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Wow.
We end every episode by saying,
go bye-bye.